too much to ask? I don't want to leave, but unless you stop ignoring me, what else am I supposed to do? Remember, when I quit, you quit. Sincerely, your heart.
Listen to your heart. Don't let it quit on you. Doing the minimum to control your high blood pressure isn't doing enough. High blood pressure can lead to a stroke, heart attack, or death. Get your blood pressure to a healthy range before it's too late. Find out how at heart.org/blood pressure. Check, change, control. A message from the American Heart Association, the American Stroke Association, and the Ad Council.
Hi, I'm Judith Light. So there you are. It's flu season, and you're over 65 like me. You're having another busy year. So much to do, so many roles in life to play. But you feel like you might be forgetting something serious. Your annual flu shot. And before you know it, it's too late. It's not just the aches, fever, and chills that last for days and days. The flu can be life-threatening, especially if you have chronic conditions like diabetes and heart disease, which can worsen with the flu. Being active and healthy alone won't protect you. The immune system weakens with age, making you more susceptible to the flu. If you're over 65, ask about your vaccine options, including one made specifically for us. An annual flu shot is the best way to help keep the flu away. Visit the National Council on Aging at ncoa.org/flu to learn more and talk to your doctor or pharmacist about vaccine options for people 65 and older. Again, that's ncoa.org/flu.
Talk 1470 is WWNN Pompano Beach and 95.3 FM W237BD Boca Raton, the Health and Wealth Radio Network.
AM 1470 WNN with more of what you need to know. Tune in for the Jill Dane Show, Sundays at 3 p.m. on South Florida's Health and Wealth Network, AM 1470 WNN.
Thousands of people around the world are learning how extra money can be made from home at Online Trading Academy. Learn about stocks, options, futures, and Forex. Here's a trading tip from one of the instructors.
You see what we've done at the Academy? We've taken this and we've simplified it down to just the basic factors that you need. There's a set of rules, follow them. There's a scoring system. If it scores greater than 7, take the trade. Set the trade up, walk away and forget it with 3 major components: a stop, an entry, and a target. You don't know what those mean? Come in, we'll teach you those.
Online Trading Academy. Learn the right way to trade stocks and more. Thousands have learned how extra money can be made from home and how risk is limited. See how it works. Reserve a pair of seats at a free half-day class in Broward and Palm Beach. Call now. Online Trading Academy, 561-674-9800. 561-674-9800. That's 561-674-9800.
Hi, it's Jay Foster. Join us 7 days a week from 2 to 3 p.m. for Health Connection Radio. We'll talk about natural cholesterol control, toxic metal syndrome, how to reverse bone loss, and the latest scientific research on vitamins and minerals. We'll have fascinating guests, and we'll take lots of your calls, too. So join us 7 days a week from 2 to 3 p.m. for Health Connection Radio right here on WNN.
Talk here. Talk there. Talk 1470 AM and 95.3 FM, the Health and Wealth Radio Network. WNN.
The opinions expressed on the following sponsored program are strictly those of the host, guests, and callers, and not necessarily those of this station, its staff, management, or sponsors. Welcome to the Ask the Expert Show with local celebrity host Steve-O. Sit back each week while Steve-O educates you with live in-studio experts, such as lawyers, doctors, home improvement, and financial experts in their field. Call in and have your questions answered each week at 888-565-1470. Now, here is Steve-O with today's expert in their field.
Hey, good afternoon. Boy, I tell you what, my day starts at 4 a.m. every morning because Renee and I have a morning talk show, a 3-hour morning talk show. And I looked at who was going to be coming on today, and thank God we've got 2 great shows today because I could fall asleep right now. It's been a long day, but we've got our first show, which is an employment law show. We have attorney Mark Berkowitz, and I'm telling you, if you've got a business, you run a business, you're thinking about opening up a business, this is where you need to start first, because there is so many things that you need to know when you're in business, and we've got an expert. He can't say that. I can. The board would probably get upset if he said that, but I can say that. So I want to welcome Attorney Mark Berkowitz.
Thank you. Nice to be here.
This is your second show now.
Yes.
You feel a little bit more at ease now, right? It's easy. It's pizza cake. We've got some great questions for you today. First of all, tell everybody about your firm and where you're located at.
Well, I'm located in Fort Lauderdale, downtown Fort Lauderdale, and I practice employment law both for employees and for smaller employers. So we play both sides of the street, and I've been a solo practitioner for the past 22 years in Fort Lauderdale.
Well, you also practice, though, in Palm Beach?
Yes, I will take cases in Palm Beach, also in Miami-Dade.
Exactly. So I'm going to give you the phone number. Again, this is an employment attorney. The phone number here is 888-575-1470. You can catch our show on 95.3 FM right now. And, of course, we're on 1470 AM. And we're also on Facebook, and we're on... I just forgot the name of it. Freddie, I'll have to get that from Freddie. But there's a lot of ways. And if you'll give everybody your website, they can actually go to your website and watch your show.
Okay. The website is www.mark_Berkowitz.com.
Okay. Periscope is what I was trying to think of. So, first of all, what is meant by the term employment at will?
Well, that's the legal doctrine that we have here in the state of Florida for most employees that don't have an employment contract. The employer has a lot of discretion, and basically the employer can fire the employee at will, either with or without cause. So it's an old doctrine that came about back in the days when the economy was mainly a farmer economy or agrarian, but it's stayed pretty true to this day, and that's the basic legal framework that we have.
Your clients who come to see you, what are most of them coming to see? What areas of employment law?
Well, often employees are discriminated in the workplace. Employee may have a disability who's not being accommodated, and as a result, no longer can perform the essential functions of the job and may have to leave the job. Sexual harassment is still a major issue in the workplace.
Look what's going on over Fox TV. Seems like every other day.
Right. Unfortunately, it takes a long time for that type of culture to make its way out of certain corporate environments, but it still is very prevalent. Some whole industries are very male-oriented and dominated, and sexual harassment is an issue. Also, race discrimination is unfortunately still a major issue in the workplace. So all of the classes that we call suspect classifications, age, race, gender, national origin, disability, religious discrimination, all those issues come up and are still very prevalent in the workplace.
Is it hard to prove a lot of these cases?
Well, it's a rare case where you have direct evidence of discrimination. Most of the time, we have to prove it circumstantially, and by that I mean the employee who's claiming discrimination has to compare himself to a similarly situated employee outside of his or her protected class. So if the employee outside of the protected class is being treated more favorably, then there's this difference in treatment or disparity in treatment. And that's really what we look at to try to prove these kinds of cases circumstantially.
Okay, so under what circumstances is an employee typically offered an employment agreement?
Well, it depends upon the industry. I mean, most employers probably will not offer an employee an employment agreement because they don't want to give up their leverage and their discretion. But if you are a more key employee, a more highly compensated employee, typically for those types of positions, employment agreements are more prevalent and occur more often.
I know in the radio business, especially when it comes to sales, that a lot of the radio stations will sign, they want the salespeople to sign an agreement that if they're fired, that they can't, one, take clients with them, and two, actually stay out of the area and not even sell at all.
Right. You're referring to a non-compete, and that's a big area. That's a very litigious area here in Florida. Under certain circumstances, non-competes are enforceable. Courts typically look at what they term is a legitimate business interest. In other words, if the employee was trained in some way, has access to customer lists or other proprietary information, then the non-compete would most likely be enforceable.
The phone number here is 888-575-1470. We're sitting here with attorney Mark Berkowitz. He's an employment law attorney. Number here is 888-575-1470. If you got a question for Mark, I guess the big question is that on people's minds is severance pay. Can you explain that? Because I keep getting different answers on if a company owes you severance pay or not.
Well, most of the time, there isn't a right to severance pay. Some companies will do it as a courtesy if someone is being laid off. Oftentimes, though, a company will have a severance pay policy, and if there is such a written policy, then the severance pay plan is subject to enforcement. But if there is no written policy on severance pay, there is no legal requirement that the employee get severance pay.
So this is not a law where you hear about they give 2 weeks severance pay. That's just up to the company, really.
Well, it's up to the company. The typical rule of thumb, if the company is going to give severance pay, is 2 weeks for every year of service. But as I said, some companies do have written policies on severance. And those written policies would most likely be enforceable.
We were talking about before the show that the employee handbook, where do you see most companies getting in trouble at today?
Well, especially in South Florida, the wage and hour statute, the overtime law, is a major source of headache for small employers and large employers as well. I've read recently that 40% of all wage and hour cases that are filed here in South Florida. And although the amount that the employer may not owe is that great, it may be a few $1,000s, if it's litigated and the employer loses, that employer could be on the hook for tens of thousands of dollars of the other side's attorney's fees. So it can be a real trap, and it's something like this. It's an old law that came into effect back in the 30s, but it could really damage a smaller employer and possibly put a smaller employer out of business.
You know, I'm seeing a lot of the bigger companies now are taking employees who are on an hourly pay and putting them on a salary, but they're still having them work long hours, and there is no time and a half. Would you want to work for a company like that?
Well, the issue is not how the employee is paid. The real issue is what job function does that employee perform. So if the employee does not manage other employees, doesn't supervise other employees, and doesn't have any independent control or discretion over his job function, he's going to be most likely entitled to overtime pay regardless if he's paid a salary. So the real test is the function that the employee performs.
So if he doesn't like the hours and all the extra work, then he just needs to, or she needs to find another job, because that's not going to change.
Well, that depends upon what the employee is doing. If the employee mainly has a clerical job and is working 60 or 70 hours a week, an employee like that would not be exempt and should get paid time and a half for anything over 40 hours per week.
I'm not going to mention names, but what about a grocery store?
With respect to what?
With respect to going on a salary versus hourly and still working 60, 70 hours a week, but not getting compensated extra for that.
Well, again, if they're managers, then they don't get compensated extra. But if they're rank and file employees that don't have discretion, that can't hire and fire, that don't manage other employees, then most likely that they're not going to be exempt, and then they should qualify for overtime. And if the employer doesn't realize that, that could be like a hurricane on the radar, because that could really sink a small business.
Yeah, absolutely. Before we go to break, I wanted to bring up about forced arbitration agreements. So, first of all, when can you arbitrate?
Well, forced arbitration is often an agreement that the employer will compel the employee to sign. And what it does, basically, is it signs away your rights to file a potential claim in court. And then, according to the arbitration agreement, the only forum that you can litigate your claim would be before a private arbitrator that is selected by the parties. And it's not an open procedure like court, so it's a private procedure that the employer has a lot more control over. So there's been a lot of controversy lately upon the enforceability of these types of agreements. I know there's legislation in Congress to try to limit the application of these agreements. And if you remember one of the cases from Fox News, one of the issues was whether or not the employee could file in court as opposed to being, shunted off in one of these private arbitration agreements. And fortunately, she was able to file in court, but that's an issue in these types of cases as well.
Yeah, it seems like I said before, they've got a lot of issues going on over at Fox. We're going to go to break. We're here with attorney Mark Berkowitz. He's an employment attorney. Give everybody your phone number.
My phone number in Broward is 954-527-0570.
We're going to be back with more questions on employment law from Mark when we come back.
Fort Lauderdale labor and employment law attorney Mark J. Berkowitz, PA, specializes in labor and employment law legal issues, such as wrongful discharge, retaliation, sexual harassment, overtime compensation, the application of non-competition and employment agreements, as well as the denial of health care, disability, and/or pension benefits. If you have lost your job or believe you have been denied a promotion, you may have a legal remedy. If those personnel decisions were based upon discriminatory reasons, including race, gender, national origin, disability, age, or religious discrimination, or if those personnel decisions came about due to the filing of a complaint of discrimination. With the assistance of the law firm of Mark J. Berkowitz, PA in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, you can obtain the legal assistance you need in the wide and diverse subject area of labor and employment law. You will be professionally counseled on your rights as an employee in the workplace, and you will be provided with legal as well as practical options tailored to meet your needs in that specific situation. Call attorney Mark J. Berkowitz today for an appointment at 954-527-0570. That's 954-527-0570.
We're back here with attorney Mark Berkowitz. We do a show in 10 cities. I got 10 different numbers, so I apologize if you tried to call the number I gave you. The number here is actually 888-565-1470. If you have a question for attorney Mark Berkowitz, that's 888-565-1470. Tell everybody, because we get after 15 minutes, there's more people getting in their cars, coming home from work. We were talking the first of the show about your firm. Just kind of remind everybody about your law firm, what you do, where you're located at.
Well, we do a lot of counseling for employees who have been discriminated in the workplace or lost their jobs, and we cover public employees as well, state employees, federal employees, city and municipal employees. And we also do counseling for small businesses, typically businesses of less than 100 employees. And I've been practicing as a solo practitioner in Fort Lauderdale for over 20 years now.
Wow. So you also do handle individual cases, the employees' cases too?
Correct.
I wanted to talk about this handbook. What are some of the things that you tell your clients should be in this handbook?
Well, an employee handbook is really important, especially if you have an employer with at least 15 employees, because if you have at least 15 employees, you are subject to discrimination complaints under either Florida state law or federal law. And one example, it's important to have some kind of mechanism for dealing with internal complaints of discrimination. So if you have that mechanism and it's resolved internally, then the employee is not going to be able to file with the administrative agency and have a claim. So those types of prophylactic measures that an employee handbook can provide, even a smaller employer, is very important.
So let's say an employee feels like they've been discriminated against. What would you suggest to them?
Well, the first thing that we'd have to find out is what's the nature of the discrimination. Again, is it based on one of the protected classes like race or age, for example?
Certain amount of time you have to do it in?
Well, under state law, you need to file a formal complaint within 1 year of the last act of discrimination. And under federal law, it's 300 days. But the first question I would ask the employee is to take a look at the employee handbook of the company and see if they have an internal process or procedure for dealing with complaints of discrimination. And if they do, we're required to exhaust that procedure first before we can file a formal claim. So
there's really not a set time, but on a discrimination case, are those hard to prove?
Well, it is difficult to prove, and it's getting more difficult to prove.
So what should a person do? They feel like they're being discriminated. Is there anything they can do?
Well, the first thing that they should do is they should assess what the issues are, what's the nature of the discrimination. They should consult a professional.
Yourself?
Someone like myself, and try to resolve the complaint internally with the Human Resource Department or the Personnel Department. If that doesn't work, the only other option is to file a formal complaint of discrimination with the agencies that investigate formal complaints of discrimination. And here in South Florida, it would be either the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission or the Florida Commission on Human Relations. And they have a formal process whereby they review complaints, the employer has to respond, and they come up with a finding or not a finding of discrimination at the end of the process.
What's the difference in discrimination and retaliation?
Well, discrimination under law means that you're being subjected to unlawful treatment on the basis of, example, age, race, gender, national origin, disability, one of the protected classes. Retaliation is a little bit different in that if an employee makes a complaint about, let's say, race or disability discrimination, and as a result of that complaint, the employee is then subjected to an adverse action or reprisal in retaliation for making a complaint, that's an example of retaliation.
And what about whistleblowers? Now, are the laws going to be changing about whistleblowers where they're more protected in the future?
Well, we have a Florida state statute, Florida Whistleblowers Protection Act, and there has been some changes for federal employees to make it easier to file a whistleblower complaint for federal employees. But the main burden of proof is that you have to make a complaint that the employer is in some way violating the law, that you've been subjected to some form of retaliation as a result of making that complaint, and that there is some causal connection or relationship between the complaint and the action by the employer. So that's the basic proof burden under whistleblowing.
Let's talk about getting injured on the job. Is there anything, are you protected if you get hurt on the job to keep you from being dismissed from your job?
Well, there is a Florida statute that makes it illegal for an employer to terminate someone as a result of the filing of a workers' comp claim. So if you file a workers' comp claim and it appears that the employer terminates you shortly thereafter, or it appears that the termination is occurring because you filed a workers' comp claim, that would be in violation of the law.
Can they give you a lighter duty position since you were hurt?
Well, that's a good question. Light duty, the situation might be that the employer does not have a light duty position, and if they don't have one, they're not obliged to create that light duty position for the employee. So oftentimes, unfortunately, if the employee gets hurt on the job and there are no light duty positions, the only real remedy would be under the workers' comp laws to get workers' compensation.
What if and I'm trying to think of questions that people out in the audience would have right now. What if there is an employee who was asked to do something illegal? Do they have any protection? Because, but they do not want to lose their job. It's not easy to find a job nowadays. But if your employer has asked you to do something illegal, are you protected in any way?
Well, that's really the focus of the whistleblower law. I mean, if the employer forces the employee to do something in violation of the law, and then the employee refuses, and as a result, the employee is terminated, the whistleblower law should provide protection under those circumstances.
What about, I've heard the expression, a hostile work environment. Is that different than harassment?
Well, lay people use the term hostile work environment kind of loosely, but it does have a very particular legal meaning. Under the law, an environment is hostile only if it's based on disability discrimination or gender discrimination or some form of discrimination. If the discrimination is so pervasive and ongoing and continuous based on one of those protected classes, then we can say that the employee is being subjected to a hostile work environment.
What does that actually mean, though? What's considered a hostile work environment?
Well, for example, if you're in an environment, if you're a female, for example, and you're being constantly barraged by jokes of a sexual nature, sexual innuendo, offensive pictures, photographs, and if it becomes so pervasive that as a result the employee is having difficulty performing her job, then that's the definition of a hostile work environment.
Gotcha. Okay, so we're coming to the end of the show. I always like asking everybody this. Tell me why, as the employee or an employer, should I hire your firm?
Well, we give personal attention to all our clients, and we're also very responsive to clients' needs. And I've always felt that the legal business is really a customer service business, and you've got to work hard every day to keep your clients satisfied and provide them with the best quality service that you can, whether it's an employee or a smaller employer. And that's always been my philosophy in the practice, and that's what I think sets me apart from others.
I'm going to give you something to add to that. You mostly do employment law. Nowadays, you see a lot of law firms that do criminal and bankruptcy, and they do, on their shingles, got 7 different areas of law. To me, it's more important that I go to an attorney that concentrates on one area of law, and that's basically what your firm does.
Correct. Mm-hmm.
So I think that's another plus for you. Let's give everybody your phone number.
In Broward, it's 954-527 0570.
And your website?
www.mark.Berkowitz.com.
Now, if you missed any of the show today, you can actually go to your website and actually watch the show again. Mark's with us every month, and you can also email me at Stephen at AskTheExpertsRadioshow.com if you've got a question you'd like us next month to ask Mark. We're going to go to break, and we come back. We've got Tina Leward, attorney Tina Leward. We're going to be doing a family law show, which we've been doing for the last 3 years with Tina. So, Mark, thanks for coming on. This was a great show. It affects everybody. And we'll see you again next month.
Okay, thanks a lot.
Thanks, Mark. It's Mark Berkowitz, attorney Mark Berkowitz. He's an employment attorney. And we'll be right back.
For an appointment at 954-527-0570. That's 954-527-0570. Lewert Law Offices is proud to be the family law expert on the Ask the Expert show. Attorney Tina Lewert is a board-certified specialist in marital and family law. Attorney Lewert is committed to obtaining the best resolution for your divorce or other family law case by consistently providing skilled representation, expert legal advice, and personal attention. Attorney Lewert has developed an excellent reputation for providing effective divorce and family law representation in Boca Raton and the surrounding communities. Lewert Law Offices offers legal advice and representation in a wide range of family law matters, including divorce, child custody, time sharing and visitation, child support, alimony, complex asset distribution, post-judgment modifications, and paternity actions. For expert representation in all aspects of divorce and family law, contact attorney Tina Lewert today at 561-544-6861 or visit www.lewertlaw.com.
To do my selfie.
Hey, we're back. We just did our employment law show, and we've got an old friend who's back. She's been gone for a couple months, though we have been running her show. Attorney Tina Lewert, our board-certified family attorney. Welcome back.
Hello.
It seems like you've been gone for a long time.
It does, yeah. I don't know what. Sometimes I have, you get like an emergency hearing or something that comes up, and then I have to, unfortunately, cancel on you guys at the last minute. And the life of a trial lawyer.
Did you worry at all when you're on your vacation?
Oh, yeah, that.
The business?
Did I worry?
Did you worry about what was going on?
You're a family law attorney. You're dealing with people's lives, and absolutely, you're it's always there. You're always thinking of it. So.
I know. Well, it's good to see you.
Part of the job.
First of all, give everybody your website address because you can actually go and watch us live right now. And if you miss part of it, you can go back later. What's your website address?
The website is lewertlaw.com, LEWERTLAW.com.
Well, because now that we're on FM now, too, on 95.3, we're on 1470, we're on Twitter.
You guys are
we're on
everywhere.
Facebook. We've got a lot of new people watching the show. Tell everybody about your practice.
I am a family law attorney, a.k.a. I know you're going to make me say the board certified part.
That's amazing. That's something really to be proud of.
So I'm board certified in family law, and
she's an expert.
I'm an expert. So that's the Florida Bar's designation, the only designation of an expert in an area of practice. And you can be certified, board certified in many areas of practice: civil trial law, criminal law, real estate law. But I'm board certified in what we call marital and family law, which I always tell people is a fancy way of saying that I'm a divorce attorney. But yes. I am an expert in the field. So, and there aren't a lot of us, and it is something. It's a way of sort of safeguarding the public's ability to choose a good attorney. If you're looking for someone in any area, frankly, I would actually suggest, and I have suggested to people, go to the Florida Bar's website, and there's a list of board certified attorneys on there by area of practice, by location, so you can look for those things, and you kind of know if you're getting someone board certified that they have a lot of experience in that area.
Well, there's an area. I'm going to tell you something about your practice.
Yeah.
There's so many practices out there. Did you look at their shingle? They do this, and they do criminal law, bankruptcy, they do immigration. You just concentrate in family law only.
Correct.
I love that.
Yeah, and I do too, because it allows me again to just provide my clients with, I think, the best level of experience and service, and they know that I don't have 50 other areas of practice jumbled up in my brain. I'm not trying
and it's a lot of things under family law. So tell everybody, because I mean, there's a lot.
There are a lot of
adoption
things,
is even under family law.
Well, correct. And actually, adoption is a separate area to be board certified in. So when you say family law, to most attorneys, they will be aware or acknowledge that adoption is a separate thing. It's a separate area of practice from it is sort of under the realm of family law, but it is a separate area of certification for expert status. And then family law. But you're right, we deal with a lot of issues in any one family law case. So, if, for example, we're dealing with a divorce case. You've got the parties are selling their homes. You've got real property issues, and then there's an alimony issue. So alimony is taxable as income, and there's a taxation issue. And we're not experts in I can't. We try to look at other experts and CPAs and things to bring expert advice to the table on some of those other matters. Bankruptcy issues come up, substance abuse issues come up, child abuse issues come up,
child support,
all sorts of things, child support. And division of assets, and then businesses and pensions and relocation, and all. So there are so many issues with life insurance within any one case, and so it is a lot to know. And I have found that has just worked for me to only focus my practice on one area of law, because it's even within that area, it's just a lot to know. And these cases are very intricate.
That I've never done. And I've thought about this many times. Do I want to say this or not? But I am such a big fan of yours. Folks, let me tell you something. I went to a friend who was one of his titles was family attorney. And I'm going to tell you something, because all I looked at, it's a friend or someone who recommended me to him. This guy, I was divorced 25 years ago, and I'm still feeling, my kids are in their 30s, and I'm still going for it because I tried to save a little money, going to a friend, I felt, and I am telling you, because the laws do change, and you do have the right to go back to court.
Yeah.
But I see now, if I'd have known what I know now, I wouldn't have been in near the trouble that I sort of am in now. But this is like, I was divorced 25 years ago. And if I would have stopped looking at what it cost, this is a friend, I wouldn't have been in this trouble right now.
And, I hear people say or use the old adage, you get what you pay for.
Yes, no, you
do. Within reason. I mean, and the attorneys, unfortunately, there are attorneys out there that this is why we have rules of professional responsibility. We have ethical rules that we're bound by. By the way, board certified attorneys are held to a higher ethical standard, but there are unethical attorneys out there, and they give the rest of us, those people give the rest of us a bad name because they try to milk the case and drag it out, and they know that means they're going to get paid more because they're charging by the hour. And you have to be careful. You have to be very, very careful. Having said that, you have to do your research. I always tell people, when you're researching attorneys, look first for board certified attorneys, but talk to a few. Talk to more than one, more than two even, and sometimes you have to feel comfortable. So it's important to do that, and also to just get a good feel. You're going to have a very personal, ongoing relationship with your attorney, especially in an area like family law, when you're dealing with the most personal issues.
I've always told you, I think you are so easy to talk to. And listen, there's nothing good about going to divorce.
Yeah.
There's so many things involved. It's emotional. There's feelings involved. And you got to be able, this is your attorney, to sit down and tell you need to know everything. They can't keep anything out. And I've always said that you're easy to talk to. You don't talk over everybody's heads. And I'm going to say something, because I did have someone ask me, he said, well, if she is board certified, she must be like top of the chain for your fees. And you're really not that way. I mean, you're kind of in the middle.
Not necessarily, right. And and again, do your research on that too. Do your research on that. What is because attorneys do charge, the 99% of us charge, by the hour. do your research on that, and what is the going hourly rate in your area, in your county.
Is that how it works? Kind of like in your area?
Yeah, in your local area.
Okay.
In your local area. And in this field of practice, in marital and family law, what are attorneys charging? What's the high end? What's the low end? That's why you need to talk to a bunch of attorneys. That's my opinion. And I think...
What are some questions?
What's that?
You should ask. What are some questions you said when you're interviewing?
Everybody well, I think first a question to ask is about experience. I would definitely ask questions of an attorney that you're interviewing about their trial experience. It's important that they know how to try the case if they have to go to trial, and also what is their philosophy about trial versus settlement. That's kind of a big deal, because you'll have attorneys out there that'll say, oh, I don't settle cases. I'm going to trial. We're trial attorneys, and that is the most expensive thing. My opinion is that trial should absolutely be a last resort. And because it creates more tension and more conflict.
Right.
It's super expensive. It takes a lot of time for an attorney to prepare properly for a trial. It's meticulous work. And people don't always understand or realize that when they're going in. And so I think that it's going to increase the cost. It's going to increase the time that the case takes, because most of the judges we're very backed up. They're very backed up on their docket. They're setting trials 6, 8, 10 months down the road from the day you request the trial date, which may be after you've already done mediation and depositions and some other litigation. So it's just never necessarily a better idea to say, well, we're definitely going to trial. And so your attorney should definitely be settlement oriented and have the philosophy that all efforts need to be made to resolve the case before you go to what I call the last resort, which is trial. And especially when you have children together with the other person. I mean,
that makes a huge
absolutely
difference.
You have to co-parent with this person for not just till they're 18. Yes, until they're 18, but also forever. You're always going to be joint parents of your child or children, and it never goes away. And you don't want to be that couple that can't, your son or daughter is getting married and they have to worry about where to seat you in the same room at the wedding from the other person. How far apart do we need to put you because you can't be in the same room together? It's just horrible. So, the more litigation that is fueled and is promoted and sparked by that can sometimes be fueled by the attorney that you choose. So you have to have somebody who's got a balance.
Counselor. I mean, can you tell if a client?
No, I'm not a marriage counselor. Cold feet,
meaning maybe they don't
to get
really
the divorce.
Yes.
Well, yeah, and you're right. I'm not a marriage counselor, but absolutely, we have an ethical duty to make sure that the marriage is in fact what we call irretrievably broken. That's a legal phrase. It's what we have to put in the filings and the pleadings to get the divorce in Florida. You say the marriage is irretrievably broken. It means the marriage is over and there's nothing that the court can do to put it back together. But I think we have an ethical duty to make sure that that's the case. So before we file and pursue it. And I've definitely had people that come in. I have a lot of people that come in and get consultations and they say, I'm not ready yet. I'm not ready to file. I'm not ready to say, yes, I'm definitely getting a divorce, but I want to get some advice just to see how it all works, to get it, to understand the law, to get some knowledge, to do my research and find out what I stand to gain, what I stand to lose, and all that stuff. And they come in for a consultation and have questions. And then sometimes they come back and get the divorce and sometimes they don't. And sometimes they come in for another consultation and they're still on the fence. But I think, and it's important to kind of make sure, well, okay, so is there anything you guys, if they're going to counseling, some people come in and they say, we're going to counseling. And, if that's been exhausted, and it's not required, but it's something that an ethical attorney will check out.
Wow, an attorney that uses the E word. Pretty nice. So now, what if, this is a no-fault state, and what if one of the spouse doesn't want to sign the papers? Doesn't matter, does it?
When you say sign the papers,
the divorce
we're
papers.
talking about a a marital settlement agreement, which would be the agreement that ends.
Well, that
resolves all the issues?
Delivered divorce papers? Or am I watching movies too much?
So maybe, yeah, they do it a little different on TV. But so when you're initiating the divorce, there's a what we call a petition for dissolution of marriage.
Okay.
We call divorce in Florida dissolution of marriage, and the person who wants to get it started, doesn't matter who, files what's called a petition, and you allege very basic facts in there that the marriage is in fact irretrievably broken, how long you've been married, if you have any children.
You list why in there?
You don't list why. You don't list why, and no one's ever gonna. I mean, it's gonna come up in discussions and possibly even with your attorney and just in some of the discussions about the case, and even sometimes in mediation when we're having an informal conversation. But the court is never going to ask, why are you getting a divorce? Whose fault was this? Who wanted to work it out and who didn't? And who wanted to go to counseling or who walked out of counseling or any of that stuff. So, yeah, it's really just you don't need grounds in Florida to file for the divorce. So you file your petition for divorce. You're requesting divorce. You're requesting division of the assets. You're requesting a parenting plan to be entered, things like that, whatever the issues are in the case, laying that out on the table. And then, yes, the petitioner will typically have their attorney will hire a process server, and the process server is a person in plain clothes, and they're authorized to serve papers. So they serve the petition on the other party, and that person doesn't have to sign for it.
Oh, they don't.
No, they just hand it to them. So that's it. They're served, and then they have 20 days to respond. Within that time, they can get an attorney. They are required to file an answer and thereby close the pleadings. So you have a petition and then an answer to the petition. They can also file a counter petition if they want to ask for things too, which happens in a lot of cases because both parties are requesting relief from the court. You both want child support. You both want division of the assets. Somebody wants alimony. So. But no one really ever has to sign anything until you resolve your case and have a settlement agreement. If you can't resolve your case with a settlement agreement that both parties agree to sign, you go to trial, and the judge doesn't need you to sign anything to enter an order. So the judge will make decision on all the issues.
So it's got to be really bad when there's kids involved.
Yeah.
And I think I've asked you before because we actually got an email, and we got to go to break. God, grandparents want to get involved. Mm-hmm. And I've learned from you, they don't have any rights.
Yeah, there are no statutory grandparents' visitation rights in Florida. So typically, the grandparents will see the children when their divorced son or daughter sees their children.
So I'm sure sometimes out of spite, they go, no, they can't see the children. The grandparents don't have any.
I've seen situations where, like one of the parents is trying to get in the way. Like anytime there's an event or something with the other, the ex-in-laws that are going to be there, they're trying to get in the way or prohibit it or whatever. But there's really nothing they can do, to prevent, what one parent does on their own time with the children. They can have their family come visit and all that stuff, absent like the grandparents being a danger or something to the children. But
I think it's sometimes out of spite, though, probably.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So let's go to break. We come back. I want you to walk people through. Maybe someone's out there think about going through a divorce, never been divorced for, and it's scary, and maybe we'll walk them through it.
Okay.
We'll be right back.
Lewert Law Offices is proud to be the family law expert on the Ask the Expert show. Attorney Tina Lewert is a board-certified specialist in marital and family law. Attorney Lewert is committed to obtaining the best resolution for your divorce or other family law case by consistently providing skilled representation, expert legal advice, and personal attention. Attorney Lewert has developed an excellent reputation for providing effective divorce and family law representation in Boca Raton and the surrounding communities. Lewert Law Offices offers legal advice and representation in a wide range of family law matters, including divorce, child custody, time sharing and visitation, child support, alimony, complex asset distribution, post-judgment modifications, and paternity actions. For expert representation in all aspects of divorce and family law, contact Attorney Tina Lewert today at 561-544-6861 or visit www.lewertlaw.com.
And we're back. You can watch today's show. You can go to, give them your website.
It's www.lewartlaw.com. There's everyone who's on the website is watching me on my phone. But I always come here and I do a selfie with the on the air sign and then a check-in, and I got to do all that.
Well, you've been with us for a long time. You're fun. We're on 95.3 if you want to listen to us on FM. We're on 1470 AM. We're all over the place. You can watch it on Twitter. You can watch us on Facebook. And you can go to Tina's website. She's got a great website, great information. So I know that there's someone out there with all the people who listen to our show right now, someone's thinking about going through divorce.
I think a lot of people are probably thinking about going through divorce.
And I think, because, the economy is getting better, but for a lot of people it's not. And that's got to be one of the biggest reasons that there's fighting going on is because of finances.
Yeah, I see a lot of that. I see that as an issue frequently, and then you just sort of hear about it during the divorce as one of the many reasons, that people are just not getting along or the marriage broke down. They just have different viewpoints, different values, different philosophies on finances, spending, debt, saving.
Number one reason for divorce?
I would say one of the top reasons in my experience.
Oh my God, what are you going to say?
Well, come on, infidelity.
Oh, okay.
Is
that one of the top reasons?
Come on, of course.
God, I'm just like, this little shell, and, this bubble.
I see it a lot. It's unfortunate.
Wow. Okay, so someone's thinking about maybe getting a divorce now, and they've never been divorced before. Can you, let's start off at your office. Coming in, and I want to say this because in my days were my play days, I met a lot of women, and it was always, my attorney, I shouldn't have listened to my friend, my attorney my husband, is always the women, not the men, said, well, I should have fought a little bit harder, and I felt bad, and I didn't, now I'm feeling bad I didn't. So they're going to see you. So what happens now? They're coming in, they've decided I want to go forward.
If they've decided that they want to go forward, we get some information from them, not even a whole lot of information, but some information that we get that we need to draft, like I said before, the petition for dissolution of marriage. So that's the document that gets the case started. We draft the petition. If they have children, the statutes require that we also file, along with the divorce petition, what's called a financial affidavit. So it's some financial disclosure. There's a form, and it's a big, long list of your income, your expenses monthly, your assets and your debts. And we try to identify all the assets and all the debts, no matter whose name they're in, by what the asset, what they are, and then the value. And we gather bank statements, credit card statements, tax returns. So there's a little bit of homework that I usually give, initially the list of documents to start gathering and some financial information to gather. And so we have all that together, and we prepare what ultimately is sort of a package. It's a packet of information, a number of documents that are required procedurally to be filed. We file it. We do e-filing now, so everything is done electronically. We file it. It gets filed instantaneously. It's in the with the clerk of court of your local county, and it takes a little bit of turnaround time to have them send it back to us. They assign a case number. They assign a judge. They do that randomly. You cannot pick your judge, but they'll assign a judge.
You know them all anyway.
Yeah, and not always, but. And then from there, when we get that back and we get the summons back from the clerk, that's the document that we need to give our process server to go serve the other party. So the other party gets served.
Let me just back up So you deal with people who also have maybe a lot of assets, some of your clients. Mm-hmm. How do you know? There's all this paperwork you get. Mm-hmm. How do you know they're not hiding something? I know that's when forensic comes in, but how do you know
that my own client isn't hiding something? Okay,
no, not your client. Oh. No,
because that's a good question too.
Oh, I'm sure.
Yeah, no, and it's first of all, and in regard to that, it's like I said earlier, it's a financial affidavit. It is a sworn document.
Oh, okay.
You're swearing to tell the truth under penalty of perjury. You're signing off that you've not omitted anything, that you've disclosed everything, and that you've disclosed it accurately. And if you don't, and something is found later after the divorce, and it, potentially it's material to the case, that your financial affidavit could be set aside, the whole thing could be set aside, and the court has the authority to go back in time and say, wait, this person committed fraud.
Right.
It would be fraud, basically, and redo the finances or whatever the whatever effect it would have on the case. So they can, it's not good. So I always tell my clients,
perjured yourself, too.
FYI, you're swearing to the truthfulness of this,
Right.
and also if from the perspective of my clients and me having to deal with them and making sure they're disclosing everything and being forthcoming, if they don't, and I find something later, or if they, if a person wants their attorney to lie for them or cover something, or let me tell you, I had this cash set aside, but don't tell the other attorney. No, we can't do it.
No.
And if you want me to do that, I have to withdraw my representation. I cannot represent you. So it's more ethical stuff, the E word. So, and as far as the other side, you said, how do you know they're not hiding something? Yeah, if we suspect, sometimes it's you try to do a tracing, you try to look and make sure. You'll see things in a bank account where there's a transfer out into some other account, but they didn't give that account. Well, what's that account? So just things like that you look for, and sometimes the other spouse, my client, will say, "Oh, I know there was money here or there," and it went, it sort of makes you start searching. We hire CPAs a lot. The forensic CPAs will do a forensic accounting. They'll do forensic analysis. They'll do a tracing sometimes. If the person has a business, we almost always get a forensic accountant involved, because we need to figure out, well, what is the income really?
Right.
Because a person who owns a business or a small business can make their tax return say anything they want,
Exactly.
but they're paying other expenses through the business. So those things are, in fact, additional income to them. So what's the correct income to use for calculating alimony and child support? So there are a number of different things that, depending on the case, and I've seen everything. I've seen people
I'm sure you have.
falsify. I've seen people who create documents false. I mean, like a Lifetime movie or something. You see people that create documents, doctor documents, white things out and type over it and all kinds of crazy stuff.
What's my favorite question towards the end of the show?
I don't know.
Went by so fast.
What's your favorite color?
What's your favorite?
I got you.
Why should I hire you?
Well, I think it goes back to some of what I talked about earlier, and I find, like you said, I try to talk to people in a way that they can understand the law, understand what's going on, and I maybe you shouldn't hire me if you don't feel good. I find that I have a good rapport with my clients and a good rapport with people. I hear that a lot. They feel comfortable with me. But whoever you hire, you need to feel that level of comfort. You need to feel that you're getting all your questions answered, and that's very important to me.
Experience.
That's very important to me. Yeah, aside from the experience and the trial work and the board certification and all that stuff, but there's something else to be said for the attorney making sure that you understand, as a client, you understand what the law is and why we're doing everything we're doing.
Give everybody your phone number.
It's 561-544-6861.
I'm sorry, what was that again?
561-544-6861.
Tina's with us every month. She'll be back next month. Real fast, give everybody your website address.
It's lewertlaw.com, LEWERT law.com.
God, I love this. This is like the easiest show to do.
Went by so fast.
We'll be back next week with more Ask the Experts. Have a good week. Peace and love.
Thanks for tuning in today to the Ask the Experts show. Tune in while some of the top local experts in their field from Broward and Palm Beach counties educate you in the areas of law, health, financial, and home improvement. You can also call our offices at 888-574-6999 to become an expert on our show. The opinions expressed